Okay, let me start with my working environment, the setup over here. I'm using a local development, local server development. I'm using XAMPP with PHP 7.2, the latest WordPress 5.3, the latest Gutenberg installed 7.0, the latest advanced custom fields, I believe 5.8.7. Um, and the latest um, uh, version of your plugin, the calculated fields for ACF, which the one you sent me is version 1.1.2. I'm gonna test um, the calculated fields in three scenarios. One in a meta box using custom fields. The other one I'm gonna use it in a form uh, by using the advanced forms plugin. Um, and then I created a ACF block. So we're gonna do it with block. Um, Everything is going to work except the blocks, the ACF blocks. However, in order to make it work better, um, let me say it up front, we need to change how or add how the triggering happens, the calculations happen, uh, the Ajax triggering. Right now, it seems to me that Ajax is only triggered when a numeric field um, is has changed. It would be also nice if um, a record is deleted, a row is deleted from a repeater field, and also if the field is a select field. Okay, so let me jump into it, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about. So let me start with the meta box, which right now everything is gonna work fine. So I've created a meta box, and I have basically two different things. I've got a simple field A and field B, which simply gonna do a simple calculation. Is field A is gonna multiply with field B, and we're gonna get the total there, and everything is gonna work fine. 2 times 3 equals to 6. That's fine. Now I've created a sample app invoice, which I'm gonna put the item, price, quantity, and it's gonna multiply the two. It's gonna find the line total, and then it's gonna find the total of the invoice, and then the number of items that's in the invoice. And in this scenario, the way it is, everything is gonna work fine. So that the first calculation, 20 times 2 equals to 40, and we have two items in there. Let me add the second row. So 50 times 2 is 100. Both of them may add to 140, and we have four items. Everything is fine. However, the way it is, especially if you're going to use it in a front form, or we're going to have you know um, end users, customers use something like this, it's not very professional. And ACF doesn't have a lookup field per se function in it, so I can have a separate table with all the prices of items. So if I choose item 1, it would automatically fill in the price for me 20, or when I go item 2, is going to fill up the price for me as 50, for example. So what I'm end up doing is get rid of the price column, actually get rid of the item column, and instead of using a price, a number for the price, I'm using in a select box, select field to select the item, and then the output is going to be the price. This works, however, it doesn't trigger the Ajax calculations automatically. Also, what doesn't trigger the Ajax calculations automatically, if I remove a field, everything stays the same, as you can see over here, unless I change a numeric field somewhere in the page, or save the page and refresh it again. Okay, so that's the first scenario. Before going to the blocks and everything else, let me change um, the meta box a little bit. So I've created a second one, and this is when I tested yesterday. I tested it um, with this new meta box, and that's why I got the result that it wasn't calculating. It wasn't doing the calculations correctly. It's just a matter of refreshing. You're gonna see what I'm talking about in a second. I know it's a little bit confusing. So let me activate the new one. And before disabling the old one, let me show you the repeater field. So basically the quantity is the same, it's a numeric field, and the line total, it's price times quantity, and the label of item, it's a price, and I've got a select field, and those are the selections. So it's going to display as item 1, $10, and it's gonna give back the data as 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50. Okay, and then that's a quantity. Let me get out of the repeater field, and then we have the total, which basically it's a sum of the invoice line total. Okay, so this right now, the way it is, it's going to work, but it's not going to trigger the Ajax calculations unless I change a numeric field, or I save the post and refresh the page. So let me go back to the testing. Oh, I didn't disable the other one. Let me do that really quickly as well. Sorry about that. So this was the one, just to make sure. Yes. Okay, I need to disable this one. Okay. So let me go to posts, my test post. Alright, so again, nothing changed on the simple calculations up here. That's correct. Now if I go to the invoicing, I've got this thing going on over here. So if I press outside the box, none of the calculations are happened. One way to trigger a calculation is to change any of those values up here, and that's going to trigger. I thought it was going to trigger. I guess it doesn't. Anyways, yeah, it's not triggering. Let me add a second row. Try again. Nope, it's not triggering. The only way to trigger the changes, I need to change that and then refresh the page, and now the calculations are going to be triggered, and there we go. 20 times 6 is 120, 50 times 3 is 150, totals to 270, and we have total of 9 items. And once again, there's a strange one. The numeric, the number of fields up there didn't trigger the changes. However, when I remove them and make a change up here, it's gonna bring everything to 0. Then it's triggered. Anyway, so um, my another suggestion will be to also have the Ajax triggered on on select items and maybe some other fields too that people might use um, in calculated forms. Maybe a checkbox. So people maybe can use a checkbox to say you want to add taxes or you want to add shipping or I don't know what, or just leave it on the select boxes. But and also when it comes to the repeater fields, removing a row should also trigger the calculated fields. The other option would be to go in the old ways where you need to save the post, update the post, save it, and then refresh the page. Okay, so now that I cleared that thing up today, now I know why the order form that I told you that I'm using it's not working. So I've got a sample, created a sample form by using the Advanced Forms plugin. So and from the beginning I use the select box and quantity of 2, and if I say submit, it should trigger the line total calculation and the total. And then in the end, I instructed the form to display all the submitted forms, and the line total and the total is empty. Now, of course, if I refresh the page, it's not going to give me the totals. It just refreshes the form so I can get the do a new submission. So let me create a second submission just to see that you don't need to refresh the page to get the results. So on the front end it doesn't display the results, and that's because of the select field, right? But I need the select field so I don't have to have a separate field for the item name and then the quantity. It looks very unprofessional. It's almost unusable in that sense. Now if I go to the backside really quickly and go look at the entries, and in both cases you're going to see that forms entries, and in both cases you're going to see that the entries were actually entered after the form was saved. There you go. 10 times it's 40, and that's the total right there. And if I go to the other one, 40 times 10 is 400, and that's the running total. Okay, so basically it works, but not very well. So we need to have a trigger for the select field as well, if it's possible, please. All right. So finally, and I found the answers why certain things weren't working, but when it comes to the block, the ACF block, nothing works. And basically I've got the same type of calculation that's happening over here in the block. Let me show you the actual code, what I'm trying to accomplish. I've set it up in a custom block. Let me see right here, templates. There's the invoice. So basically I didn't spend the time to display everything. I'm displaying the total. That's a total of the invoice, and the calculation at the beginning, the values of AAA, BBB, and then the calculation is going to be AAA times BBB to display the result of that. And let me show you the actual field group for that, so we won't have any questions how the field group was set up. So we have ABC. The field names is AAA, BBB, and CCC. So it's a numeric field. B, the actual field name is BBB. That's a numeric field. And finally C, that is a numeric field. And then the calculation is AAA times BBB. Okay. So let me go back to the test post, and let me get the invoice block in here. Alright, so again, this is just text, name, email, address, blah blah. So in the AAA, we got 3 times 4, and it shows up pin 12. Nothing is happening. Even if I update and refresh the page, the calculations are not triggered. Okay, if I go to see, preview it, the A is showing correctly, the B is showing correctly, but the calculation of the C, there's nothing has triggered. And obviously I'm going to get the same result if I go on the front end, because it's that one template that generates the result, so it's the same thing. No surprise there. Alright, so obviously if the simple easy calculation didn't work, obviously the line total and the items is never gonna work. So again, nothing triggers it, changing any of those calculations. I'm wasting my time here. So update, refresh, yeah, nothing. So this is where we stand. So I don't know how you guys got the blocks to make it work, but even with a simple calculation it doesn't work, which is basically the simple calculation in the meta box. And in the meta box everything works, but unless you delete a row, that should trigger an Ajax recalculation, which is not. And also, please, if it's possible to make it more usable, um, can we also trigger the Ajax calculations when an item, when a field is also a select field? And that's all I have for you guys right now. Um, Sorry for being a little bit long and winded, but I had a long day. I'm just talking all day and I'm tired. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.